here's what I'm going to tell you. There are two kinds of evidences, and I've already shared this with you before. Intellectual evidences and what else? Spiritual, moral evidences. The Quran, what we talked about for the most part were kind of along the lines of intellectual evidences, right? But the Quran also calls on the human being's own sense of decency, which the Quran terms fitrah. Fitrah, it's a sense of pre-programmed decency inside of us, that what it's saying appeals to reason and appeals to morality. The tragedy of our times is that the Quran is portrayed as a demonized book. A book that calls towards killing and injustice and hatred and intolerance, and all of these negative terms are used in regards to the Quran, and it's carelessly and also maliciously quoted and mistranslated often to create this sentiment among people who say, I'd rather never read this book. I have met people personally that hated Islam and decided one day, they're at the library, they're like, all kinds of problems. They went to the library and said, might as well read it. I hate it so much, I'm going to read it and get even more angry, right? He reads it at the New York Public Library in Queens, in Steinway. A friend of mine, he goes there to read the Quran, I think he read through half of it, and came out and he was a Muslim. And he told me himself, I wasn't reading the Quran was reading me. That's what he said. It was telling me about my life. Fihi dhikrukum. You'll find your own mention in it. It's talking about you, it's not talking about stories of old times. Now when you talk about external evidence, the external evidence is your own conscience. The Quran is enough as evidence. Actually the Arab said, is there any other evidence? You got anything else from the sky you want to show me? Something comes down, How about some springs come out of water out of nowhere? Anything else? And what did Allah say to them basically in Surah Al-Ankabut? Isn't it enough for them? أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِيهِمْ? Isn't it enough for them? أَنَّا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ يُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ? That we have sent a book down upon you that is to be read to them? That should be enough. God's word is enough. Now if one feels the need to say, what more you got? Then Allah's got the answer. He said it's enough. There are two things, your own moral conscience and the Quran itself. Now when you talk about other intellectual evidences, the one he's poking me to get out to you is in regards to historicity. If we have time, because it takes time and I'd rather deal with your questions, if we have time we'll get into that inshallah.